Welcome back to the Football Fitness Federation podcast, and welcome back to my co-host, John and Tyra. John, how are we?
All good, thanks. Glad to be back.
Good man. And we are joined by Kev Paxton. Kev, it's been far too long. 2020 was the last podcast, which is mental. How are we doing?
Yeah, good, really good, mate. To be fair, excited to have a chat with you today.
I think there's been quite a few changes in those 4 years, hasn't there? So you can bring us up to date in a second on what you've been up to. But also, for anyone that's not listened to that episode, will you give us a little bit of rundown on your career, where you've been, the roles that you've been in?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just whistle stop tour, 25 years plus in the industry, predominantly as an S&C athletic development coach in my early days at Sheffield United. Prior to that, I was an advert for probably every graduate that's coming out of university today in terms of just get as much experience in as a variety of different ways as possible. PT, coaching kids, summer camps, you name it. I was doing it prior to getting that sort of chance at Sheffield United. 10 years of just building a program at Sheffield United in the academy, all the way up from nines to seniors, supporting the seniors as well at times. Really sort of grounded us in all the skills required across all that LTAD network. Then I went to Notts Cricket, having had a bit of sort of part-time work at Derbyshire Cricket as well, which was really useful. I really enjoyed working in a different sport. Again, advice there for many practitioners: don't sort of pigeonhole yourself in an organisation or a sport. Branch out to other areas. That was great working with athletes at Notts Cricket. I loved my time at the Bridge, working with different nationalities, different age groups, different positions. And then sort of 5 years later, I moved on to Leicester City, where I headed up the academy, performance support program there for 8 years, building from scratch, putting systems in place, loads of staff development, loads of process development, trying to get the MDT to work together collaboratively, leading the academy from the management team perspective, and then sort of progressing on, transitioning, lucky enough to step up to seniors, and had a great experience as a rehab fitness coach for a few years, working with the medical department there. Again, broadening my skill set, exposing myself to different ways of working with the physios and the medics. And then for all that, while all that's going on for my sins, working in the professional standards area with BASES and UKCA, trying to help practitioners develop and improve the industry as well. So chucking some associate lecturing and some GB cycling, and that toolbox has certainly sort of grown in size and experiences. So something I'm quite proud of.
Yeah, class, vast amount of experience, which hopefully we're going to pull from in this episode. But Kev, give us a little update on current day as well. What are you doing now?
Yeah, I mean, currently I'm really enjoying being a freelance consultant. I've got my own consultancy company. I'm doing some projects in the Polish Premier League, Lechia Gdańsk, heading up their medical and science physical department on a consultancy basis. I'm working with Notts County Academy, overseeing their physical program. I've also done some stuff with an AMS company called Action Apps out of Microsoft, which is an excellent, fantastic product. It's got some great clients around the world, and really enjoying working with them to try and help refine the systems for how the MDT collaborate and sort of just streamline all the data insights and make the practitioner's job easier. And then just more recently, I've sort of ended up back at the Bridge, doing some sort of short-term work with Notts Cricket. Like I say, really enjoyed seeing how that program has changed in the years that I've been away, but straight back in, it's like, yeah, it's a fantastic experience, great bunch of lads and coaches, and enjoying doing that on a consultancy basis as well.
Class. We were having a good chat before we went live on this about the industry and where we're at in terms of utilising data, the link between sort of data and coaching and being active and speaking to players, which is, Jordan, we speak about pretty much every episode, don't we? Where do you think we're at with that, Kev? A bit of a broad topic to start with, but just in terms of where, like globally across football, and you can even pull from your experiences in other sports as well, this balance between utilizing data, technology that we've got out there and reverting back to sort of roots of coaching, have we got the balance right? Are we too far one way than the other?
That's great topic. You might have to jump in and sort of stop me. 20 minutes later, I might still be rambling on this, but yeah, I mean, from my experiences, and I think my philosophy over the years has been fairly consistent, but has developed through reflective practice. And I've never discounted other ways of working, but I always try and take the best bits of other ways and put it into my philosophy. I think generally, when the bottom line is that, like, we're talking about interdisciplinary support and collaborative support for the athlete. Okay, all those different practitioners who surround the athlete, designing an individualized program for the athlete. That is 100% the way to go. I think where the industry has possibly gone off on tangents and into silos is because each of those little pockets of support around the athlete, everybody, whether it's a level of insecurity, whether it's a lack of knowledge, whether it's a desire to improve their own specific area, I think sometimes people kind of just get a little bit obsessed with their little area of support, and try to sort of just try and improve that. And then they can't, because they've got this keen desire to improve their little area of support, it sort of like goes into like a bit of a scatter bomb approach to like, what can I get better at? And what are the different ways I can do it? And can I improve my data analysis sheets? Can I improve my ways I collect data, my different testing? Can I improve the different bits of kit that I can use? And all this stuff is actually external stuff to the athlete. It's products or bits of processes, but it isn't about the person. And I think where the industry needs to just sometimes just be reeling back in is to go, actually, the most impactful thing you can do for your athlete is be the best possible coach in the way that you coach the athlete. So if it's a physio, coach the rehab as best as you possibly can coach it. If it's a physical coach, performance coach, coach the gym, coach the field-based, coach the prevention work as best as you possibly can coach it. And then obviously the coaching takes is the same, speaks for itself. But yeah, I'd say possibly in my, looking from the outside, and I don't want to generalize practitioners, but maybe sometimes practitioners take for granted that coaching skills and that attention to detail of improving what the athlete's doing on a daily basis in the moment, because they become more obsessed or more focused on the external things that happen after the athlete's left the building. And actually, it's gone, and the athlete's gone. So you've missed the boat. Missed your opportunity to really make a performance impact and performance change.
Definitely. This just reminds me, Jordan, when we did the event at Everton, James Cohnboy presented for us, and he did some analysis on his own practice and mic'd himself up and listened back to some of the phrases he was using within coaching. And I suppose that's the kind of detail that you're looking at, isn't it, in terms of having an impact as a coach. Is there anything else that you'd say for coaches to reflect on, that, okay, we need to improve ourselves as coaches, we need to improve our coaching practice, but have you considered some of these things, like these aspects of coaching?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, the way you look at it, if you think about the plan, do, review, plan your session. And how are you planning that session? Well, I'm planning it off evidence-based needs analysis criteria. I'm planning it off a long-term structured microcycle split into mesocycles split into microcycles. That's just textbook theory, but it's so often talked about. But do people actually do it? Do they have their frameworks of, I want to achieve this type of block general preparation phase, then I want to go into a hypertrophy phase, then I want to go into a max strength, then I want to go into power development, and then within that, do I actually have set aspects of exercises out of my toolkit that I can use for compound lifts, assist lifts, synergistic work. But then for that athlete, not everyone's going to fit that. So, you know, a group of 20 athletes, maybe 8 will fit that. 6 need a different type of structure. 4 might need a completely different type of structure. So it's, you know, it's using that toolbox. So that's in terms of planning. In terms of delivery, very much coaching skills, right? And your coaching skills are like, right, am I giving technical cues? Does this athlete require technical cues to be safe and effective to perform an exercise, do a drill, do some rehab? Or technically, are they there? But, you know, so mentally, they might just need a pickup, or they might need, you know, a bit of a beat with a stick. You know, come on, get yourself in gear, get your horse in gear, and get working it. Do they need you to join in with them, to motivate them, to show them it's achievable, to sort of buddy coaching style work? Do you need to put them with a different athlete that they get on well with, but they'll work well together? Do you need to put them with an athlete that's going to sort of drag them up? Or do you put them with an athlete that and say, look, can you help drag these guys up? So there's all sorts of different little delivery style options you can do. But yeah, I think you only kind of get that when you've got the experience and you've kind of gone right and you've got that framework of delivery. So, you know, how do you deliver your field sessions in terms of grouping your types of drills into certain categories, doing those drills on certain days and doing the prep work that goes with those drills in the gym beforehand on certain days. And not just going, oh, yeah, I'll do this because I've seen it on Twitter, or do this because so-and-so did it, or do this because everyone else does it, so I've got to do it as well. You know, that's the delivery. But then the review, that review part of the cycle is, and this is what I say about, I think the industry possibly spirals out of control. I think that percentage of review gets too big a percentage, and the delivery percentage shortens, and the planning's probably shortens because people are spending so much time looking at data and drawing graphs and looking, oh, I can get this new type of equipment in and I can make a name for myself with this, and I can do something that's a little bit more intelligent, a little bit more clever than the other practitioner by using that type of equipment. And then the actual hours of manpower to do that review cycle increases. And we've only got X amount of, you know, processing power in our computers upstairs to actually be able to cope with that. So then people then take back in other ways to work those review cycles. So yeah, I mean, I think to coach better, you need to ring fence that amount of percentage delivery time and cognitive load that you're going to put into that coaching by automating the planning process and automating the review process. So, you know, like I said, I sort of touched on the other day, like if you want to be the world's best coach, improve your coaching skills and your toolbox for coaching. If you want the world's best review system, then outsource that to people that are the world's best, people that can help with that review of data, analysis and insights. Feed that information back as automated and as quickly and as real time as possible to you as the coach, so that you can then coach and impact on that athlete. Don't be trying to be the world's best data scientist, data engineer, if your job is a coach. If that makes sense.
It does. It definitely does. No, I think there's some really interesting stuff in there. I think that where the focus lies is really interesting. And one thing I was going to bring up, and I'd love to get your opinion on this, is we speak a lot about improving your value as a coach. And, you know, again, a lot's made about how saturated the industry is, how many people are going for jobs. So coaches are constantly trying to nudge themselves up to above everyone else, aren't they? Do you think that is a big reason why we're spending so much time in this review stage, because we're trying to prove our worth? Not to say that's right, because you just mentioned how important it is on the planning and the coaching, but do you think that is that a justified reason for coaches to be spending time there?
Absolutely, 100% agree. I mean, it's a comfort blanket, isn't it? It's a nice, safe space to take yourself as a practitioner. I'm going to do all this review work and I'm going to spend hours and hours and hours going through spreadsheets, individualizing data feedback. and I'm going to spend a bucket load of time doing that because it's safe, and it's a safe way of saying to the powers that be that pay the wages, look at what I'm doing with my athlete. But then the athlete may be down the corridors going, yeah, I'm not sure you're doing that much with me, mate. Because you're exhausted from doing all that to build this picture of value, or perceived value, but then the actual value of you as a person with the athlete is dropping on a weekly basis, monthly basis, because you're not actually helping the athlete get better. And ultimately, if you want to make a name for yourself as a coach and you want to add value to yourself as a coach, so there's to many a young practitioner, be the best coach you can be for your athlete. Love to work for your athlete, so your athlete loves to work for you. If that makes sense, you've got to put all that, you've got to invest all that energy and emotional effort and cognitive load into showing that athlete you're trying to get them to be better. But in the moment, because they don't see what you do for 3 or 4 hours after they've gone home. They don't see that. They only see in the moment. And if what they see in the moment isn't 100% for them, then they'll quickly, decrease your value with the powers that be anyway. So, yeah, there's another, I've got loads of sayings and I don't mean to sort of sound boring, but the genius is in the simplicity. And everyone might just go, what the hell are you on about, Paco? That's bullshit. Sorry, excuse the language. But do you know what? The genius is in the simplicity.
Yeah.
Like, to prove your value as a practitioner, to be really, really clever at how you do that, keep it simple and really make a difference with the athlete. And that's how you can show how clever you are with the athlete. The genius is in the simplicity. But people don't probably want to hear that, because then it's like, well, everyone can do that. Yes, everyone can, but not everyone does.
Yeah, it's so true. I'll let Jordan jump in a second because I feel he's got some burning questions. But just on that, and you don't have to name names on this, but I wanted to ask, when you've seen that coaching side, the practical side, the real impactful coaching done well, and I'm sure you've got people coming into your mind now where, like, I could watch them all day as a practitioner because they know the players, they've done all the things that you've spoken about. What are maybe some key takeaways from watching a session like that with that coach? Like, what are some things we could give the audience to say, these are some, not that you have to replicate it, but just the way that this coach is and some of the things they've developed over time, this is something to look at and learn from.
Yeah, definitely. Coach, don't commentate. So I've seen many a practitioner commentating at the athlete. They're reciting technical models, or they're trying to sound really intelligent, and they're talking about training adaptation theory and force velocity curve and actin myosin filament theory, and like, they ain't got a clue what you're on about, and they're not listening. They're just not listening. They're more bothered about what was on Instagram this morning. So that's one thing. Coach, don't commentate. But then on the flip side of that, I've seen guys that actually pick up technical details. So, and then the athlete goes, oh yeah, no, I really feel that. And I had this yesterday, for example, a young fast bowler. I watched him split lunge, for example, and he's collapsing on the right leg, on the right, when the right leg's at the back leg, and sort of saying, you're just collapsing a little bit on that side, whereas on the other side, you're really strong, really braced, good torso, squeezing through the glute, feet are still on the front leg. On that side, you've got to be stronger base, you've got to push through the floor, you've got to extend through the thoracics, you've got to squeeze that glute. Oh, yeah. Oh, I get it now. Yeah. And then he showed me a video and he said, look, yeah, this same thing happens when I bowl. This is what I'm working on with a bowling coach. And he said, do you think this will help? Of course it'll help. Yeah, absolutely. This is what you're trying to do. And then so making that link between what they're doing in the gym and what they do on the field, on the court, in their drills, making that link is so, so important. so that the athlete sees perceived value in what they're doing in the gym. Some of the great coaches I've seen over the years don't give too much information. So they coach, they don't commentate, they just pick out a couple of things and they go, and it's simplistic cues. And the other thing is like, can you take your cues from a technical model, but put it into layman's terms? So, I was doing a UKCA workshop at the weekend and we were talking about different coaching styles, technical models. I'm saying, look, you've got to learn the technical model because you've got to know it, right? And you've got to coach, not commentate. I don't want you just commentating out random words, but I don't want you just splurting out the technical model. But you do have to prove you know the technical model first. And then once you've proven you know the technical model, then you can find your way of getting that information across to your athlete. And say some of the best coaches, snippets of information, badge high, belly button, pinch some of this sort of stuff off them over the years. And then also, the other thing we sort of said is, don't forget how powerful a well done is.
Yeah.
Like just because they're doing it really, really well doesn't mean you don't need to say anything. But don't say well done if it's not well done. Because that's ultimately, athletes are not daft as well. They know when they can work out the blaggers that are just trying to, tell me what I want to hear. And they're like, yeah, that soon you get found out if you do that. Not everything is not always well done. And athletes know they're not always doing everything well done. But when they do something well and you go, right, that was good and that was really good, then let them know. But equally, if it's not right, don't say it is right, because they're not daft athletes.
Jordan, I can feel you wanted to jump in. Go on.
No, I was just thinking, like, the more you've been speaking there, Kev, this is just golden information, isn't it, for the youngsters, and certainly earlier practitioners. I just wanted to jump in on the point of how everything almost falls down a little bit if the coaching skills aren't there. Like you were saying about the processes, and you might spend hours and hours and hours put this perfect, gym program put together, how it's going to look across the week, how it's going to look across the month, and then you get in the gym and 4 of them are sore, 4 of them aren't up to standard yet, 4 of them, are on it but aren't feeling good in that day. And that process could be literally the best process in the world, but the athletes might not turn up in the right frame of mind or whatever you said. And then it's completely down to your coaching skills to get them to actually perform in the gym or on the pitch or whatever session it might be. So without the actual coaching skills being up to standard, that process and everything else that goes around it falls away from that moment in the gym or on the pitch. So, like, I just wanted to double down on that a little bit to kind of say the coaching skills and what we speak about it all the time on the podcast, the soft skills. And I love the bit you said about sometimes you've got to maybe do the lift or the exercise or the acceleration or deceleration, whatever it is, with the athlete themselves, just they go, yeah, okay, come on then. Because ultimately, and this is the point I'm getting to finally, is the point you said about you've got to work for the athlete so the athlete works for you. We're asking these players to put their bodies on the line a little bit and really push hard. Certainly when it comes to, like, we're talking about pre-season and stuff like that, like, we're asking them to really put a shift in. So if they don't like you, they don't trust you, and they don't see you working for them because you're spending 4 hours after training, in a spreadsheet, when instead you could have gone down the hall, like you say, and said, see you later, lads, well done today, give him a little fist bump and see you tomorrow, can't wait to see you. Like, they're going, oh, I don't like him, I never see him, he only just feasts on the pitch and then he disappears into his office again. So really, really good. And I think, how have you've led MDT teams, how have you found the transition from when you sort of helping younger practitioners who might come in with those big grandiose ideas, and I'm going to get involved in the data, I'm going to get involved with, putting these processes in place, but their coaching skills might not quite be at that point. What were some of the early stages that you put in place for them guys or girls to start to kind of say, let's get your coaching up a notch and really sort of take it up? And I know you've alluded to a bit there, but any skills that anyone else can take away and go, oh yeah, I'm going to put that in.
Yeah, that's a great point, John, to be fair. I mean, I've seen lots of young practitioners come out of university, and to be fair, they're very, very intelligent and they know all the training theories. And a lot of times, sometimes I'm like, they're teaching me stuff that I've completely forgot or don't know. If I'm honest, I'm like, yeah, I haven't got a clue about that. Like, but I don't use it. So that's why I don't know. What you don't use, you lose. So it's just literally just go. It's to make that point. I think to make that point all the time is like the athlete doesn't care how much you know if you don't show them that you care, but also show them. You've got to show them actually how what you know can make a difference. That's the critical thing, I think, because just talking about stuff to them, like it's like a university lecturer lecturing at a student. Doesn't always go in, does it? Goes in one ear and out the other. Like the university lecturer is amazingly clever, but there's only so much information a person can take in. So my tips to sort of like a lot of the young practitioners, and we were doing this over the weekend on the UKSCA workshop I was running, is like I could literally just tell you everything about this technical model for these exercises, but in 15 minutes time, you ain't retaining that information. So we're going to employ several different ways of learning these strategies. One is you're going to take yourself off to a quiet corner and you're going to go through the technical model and you're going to underline key cues and you're going to chunk the information for yourself in a nice, safe space. Put your headphones on if you want, and I want you to chunk that information for you. The second one is you're going to practice in the buddy style coaching each other. Coach one versus coach two versus coach one. Then we're going to do a small group session, coach 1 versus 2, 3, 4, and we're going to rotate around. And then one thing we did do is we did like this sort of speed dating coaching, where the coach they were just changing every 30 seconds. So they had time pressure. So they had to just go boom, 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 and they had to literally. So you're not going to do that with an athlete. But my point is that there's different ways of learning, and there's different ways of passing that information on. And sometimes in a setup, say a session in the gym, for example, you can't sit with a regimented framework of warm-up, main lifts, assist lifts, conditioning, because it comes very, very boring and very, very mundane. And after a while, it will just become stale. So yes, you need to have your frameworks in place, but you also might need in certain phases, you know what? We're going to do some different types of coaching in the gym. We're going to pair off athletes and we're going to do some buddy coaching. We're going to do some competition finishes at the end, rather than some conditioning finishes. We're going to do some small group. You're going to go off in small groups and you're going to do those little exercises in that group. You guys are going to do those exercises in that, and have a little circuit-based rotation. So just having the different formats of how you deliver your training stimulus is absolutely identical to having different ways a teacher would relate information to a student. And because ultimately that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to educate on physical performance, aren't you? So having those different formats, saying to your young practitioner, vary your format, but do it in a structured way. And then the second thing was have your toolbox, increase the size of your toolbox. You must go away and look at other areas. You've got to go outside of our organisation. If you want to go and have an afternoon, fine, we'll sort it, we'll cover it. Go and have an afternoon there. Go and see what they've come back, present to us, see what they've done. Maybe we can learn something from what they're doing. You can definitely learn something from what they're doing. Then the final bit of that is just because you've got all these ways of working now and you've increased your toolbox and you've increased the way that you structure your days or your sessions, does not mean that you have to use it, but you might need to use it in 6 months' time. Or you might need to use it with one player in 4 weeks' time. So and then and I'm sort of saying to the practitioners, saying to the staff, look, if you show that you're caring about a guy that no one cares about, then that dressing room will get behind you, because that dressing room always sticks together. The players, the athletes will always stick together. They will always have each other's backs. Yeah, you have the odd sort of bad egg and stuff in there, but in general, that changing room is tight. And if they see you trying to go out of your way to help guys, that nobody else wants to bother helping. Because we've all seen that at football clubs. Manager's not bothered about him. Bomb him off. He's not bothered. He's going. Well, the players, the athletes see a different picture. They see you going and caring and putting that effort into that. So you might put your effort into one guy, knowing that you're going to cash in and reap the reward with the other guys later on down the line. Treat all people equal. That would be the mantra.
I think that's so. And what you said there though as well about the toolbox, that's massive, isn't it? And that only comes from experience. So the point you made about going to other institutions, working in other sports, like you said at the start, that's really, really important, because certainly with cricket, like you've mentioned already, there's different demands. There's more psychological demands, batting, bowling. You've got to be in the like rhythm all the time. And if you slightly step out of line, all of a sudden, let's say a batter, and you get out early in innings all the time, it's quite a dark place. So you've got to take that care and attention to them. And all of a sudden, if you then go back into a football environment, like you say, Dan, you've got somebody who isn't starting, isn't playing well, and they come on, they're just not having an impact in games. And you go, actually, I've related this to that, and I can go and speak to them, and like you say, have care. They're gonna love you for it. So I think that's a really, really good point.
Absolutely.
The other one on that, Kev, which I love, is the one where you spoke about the speed of like those drills, like the speed dating. Because I know you mentioned it, I think you said, it wouldn't happen with a player, but we've all probably been caught in a situation when a player's maybe come up to you in the gym or wherever it is, and they've dropped a question on you, and it's like, right, this is my time to have an impact with this player because they've opened up to me. They've given me a chance to maybe explain and give rationale. If you use that next 5 to 10 seconds and mess it up, the trust breaks down at that point, doesn't it? But at the same time, on the flip side of that, if you give them an answer and they go, actually, oh yeah, I do need to work on that. Or that's like you said before about the bowling. Yeah, that's what my bowling coach tells me. That's come across twice now. So that highlights the importance of that even more. So being able to communicate in that way is really important, but also probably important to practice, which we don't get that much practice of, do we? That just comes from a lot of conversation and a lot of experience. And let's face it, a lot of times where we probably messed that up and given the wrong answer at that time as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it all comes back to my passion for engaging with an AMS company as a consultant now. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention the name, but working with action apps at the moment, my passion for them and the reason why I'm getting behind them as an AMS company is because their USP is to sort of facilitate and automate all the process that you need specific to you in your environment. And they're as world-leading experts in data insights and data science and data production and engineering. They will create the system that is unique to you so you can use it in your environment how you want to work. And then you're not, as a practitioner, and all the staff around the athlete can all work how they need to do for the athlete because everything else is automated and communicated and collaborated, but it's how they need it. They're not spending endless amount of time following up with painstaking, data heavy, time invasive processes and protocols that mentally drag you down because you have to think long term. It's not just in a week, it's week after week after week, month after month after season after season. If I like the fact that this system is going to facilitate you as a practitioner to actually go and impact on your athlete, how you can best impact. And I think that would be my biggest thing now is I'm going, as staff, don't waste time doing stuff that you can outsource, and I'm not, there's multiple ways of outsourcing some of the data insights and data science and data engineering. That's not your area of specialism. Your area of specialism should be building that toolbox, building those coaching skills, building those people relationship skills, like you say, so that when you need to impact on your athlete in the moment, you can do. But get a specialist system in place or specialist processes and automated processes in place that help you do that, because it's there on your phone, it's there on your iPad, it's there on your laptop, and it's automated. With the use of the AI bot, for example, that they've got as well, that you can go and get a real complex question answered within seconds instead of having to write a report for 4 hours for the next day, which you don't even know if it's going to get read.
Yeah.
Because they might have made their decision by then already,
yeah.
the key stakeholders. So that's a real sort of big thing for me now.
Yeah, and again, that ties in with this whole communication, relationships with players, with staff, with the wider MDT as well, doesn't it? And if we're talking about spending 4 hours in an office, like away from everyone else, that's 4 hours that you could have been strengthening and developing those relationships even further, couldn't it? Whether that's to grow within the organization that you're in there, or whether that's to build relationships. We obviously talk about networking a lot. You could spend 4 hours spending a bit of time networking is going to do you the world of good in the long run, isn't it? So it just means that you're getting the same work done, Kev, aren't you? But quicker and freeing up time for yourself, which, let's face it, we're all chasing that, aren't we? We're all trying to find more time somewhere.
Yeah. And I think if you look at the athletes programs, there's one of the big benefits of the EPPP, for example, has been the hours, the contact hours, the staffing provision, the facilities, no doubt. Whether that's spiraled out of control, that's another debate. But one of the other big things about the EPPP that came in was the individual learning plans. And a lot of organisations were probably doing this before the EPPP. Like, we need to have specific individual afternoons for individual skill development, individual physical development. No doubt some of that practice was happening pre-EPPP. I know we were certainly doing it at Sheffield United. But those individual learning plans, can you create an individual learning plan with stimulus coming from the whole of the MDT and the athlete? Now, the question is, how do you collate that stimulus? Because if you don't have a real functional system to collate all those data points, all those information points coming in, then you have the MDT silo program. And then the athlete looks at it and goes, I'm doing all that. No way. That's like 3 weeks worth of work so it's, can you streamline all those key things, those key flags from the electronic medical records, the key flags from the medical screening, key flags from the injury history, and then just bang, 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 bang there. That's that straight in that individual learning plan, streamlined, automated. Physical profiling testing, asymmetries flagged, automated into the report, GPS or IMA data coming in into those reports, streamlined, benchmarked. The other thing is, like, we all want to put in information onto an ILP, but then on the ILP there's a load of numbers, and the athletes go, I haven't got a clue what that means. The coach doesn't know what it means. Sometimes the medical staff might not know what the sports science staff mean, and the sports science staff don't know what the medical staff mean, and they're probably the closest people that work together. So if they don't know, what chances everyone else got? So it's having that. We talked about this over the years. Having that simple benchmarking traffic lighting, whether it's a 5-point scale, whether it's a 10-point scale, whether it's a percentage of gain. Everyone's got their own personal preferences for a benchmark. You've got to have some sort of layman's terms benchmarking of those data points on the ILP, because then the athlete can be motivated to try and improve into the next grading, improve their percentage. It's simplistic, it's automated, it's real time. They can get those feedback onto their phone, they get feedback onto the iPad. Having that system in place is absolutely vital as well for getting that collaborative support, but also making sure it's streamlined and impactful, and not just masses of PowerPoint slides, 10 PowerPoint slide deck for an ILP. That no way that's getting done. No way. No.
I think the other thing on that as well, when it is streamlined and people know, they understand the plan that's in place, if we were all in slightly different roles and maybe you'd been you'd had the final say on the plan, Kev, but then a player sees Jordan, they go, oh, what does this mean? He should have the answer. He should be able to understand it. So it should work, shouldn't it? Where you don't go, oh, go and find Kev because he knows. Like I know because I've been part of the process.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So no, it's really interesting. I think we've got well into the discussions there, Kev, without bringing up some of the things that we spoke about previously about talking about. We crossed over a little bit, but you mentioned when we were talking about topics to cover, obviously the MDT process, where you brought up the 4 Ps. Do you want to? I know we've touched on them a little bit, but do you just want to take us through those?
Yeah, I think the first P is obviously planning, like we talked about. So, can that planning process it take into account the seasonal plan, the stage of the season, the planning? It might be like sort of trying to fast track certain individuals across the pathway. So we know they're getting fast tracked because they've been signposted as a high level player, and we want to facilitate and fast track them. It might be that the planning is based around maturation in certain stages. It might be based around that's a good point. It can't be solely on maturation because there's benefits to doing non-maturation based training as well. But then that planning, is it based around frameworks so that there's clear like knowledge, like you say, of the different practitioners that know what each other are doing on the plan? Is it well communicated, as in a singular communication system? So again, we go back to your AMS system. Is that schedule the single point of contact schedule, or people working off WhatsApp plans, people working off WhatsApp messages, or their own sort of like PowerPoint slide deck, or they're working off a PMA calendar, or they're working, you've got to literally streamline it down to one single point so everyone knows what that plan is. And there's no, oh, I didn't realize that session wasn't at that time, or so on and so forth. So the planning is important. After that, it's the place of work. Are you setting up and structuring your place of work to be functional? Is the medical right next to the physical? These are common sense things, but common sense is not that common, is it? Are the coaching staff integrated into planning meetings, office formats with the MDT staff? Or the phase staff, do you have like different sort of phase meetings within the building to plan what's going on within that phase across the different age groups? Is the gym set up to be a multi-use gym? So sometimes you might want to go do a circuit, so you need that space to go do it. Or is it just like, that's our gym, we do our upper body there, lower body there, rehab exercises there, core there, and never shall change. And then 4 years later, you're still doing the same sessions. And it just becomes a bit boring, a bit mundane. So you've got to have that flexibility within your facility to do different types of work, whether it's different pitch sizes, different pitch areas, different multi-sport games, having that flexibility in your place, but also having those areas of communication in your place. But ultimately, the final two Ps is, can you monitor that performance monitoring? Because if you've got really good facilities and really good places and really good planning, but you've got no actual outputs that you're measuring on a regular basis, then how do you know if you're doing well? How do you know if your program's getting better? Because it might look great, fantastic facilities, expensive facilities, real good showpiece training ground, looks amazing. What a great place to work that is. I've got every single gadget under the sun. But if you've not got certain KPIs that you're looking to try and achieve in the mesocycle, in the macrocycle, and then those it doesn't filter down into benchmarking in terms of, is actually, okay, are people achieving what they've done relative to that age group or that maturation phase? Then it's having that system of KPIs from your performance monitoring. But ultimately, all three of those will not work if the people are not aligned to that. And this is where I think it all breaks down, and it sounds like a broken record, but you can have the best plan, the best place of work, the best performance monitoring on paper. But if the people don't action that application of the program, they don't action it, you've got no chance. In my opinion, that is a broken record and a bit of a soapbox moment, but it is about this, the standard of the people and the desire of the people to work collaboratively, work for positive improvement, work to the system, to work for that athlete. And if you get that right, you've got, because you can have really good people and none of the other P's and still produce.
Yeah. I think, John, if we reflect on the episode we did with the lads at Pompey, there's a massive, not just that episode, but that's just one of them where there's a massive crossover to what Kev's just mentioned, isn't there?
Yeah, 100%. The people, the bit you ended on there, Kev, in terms of, I think a lot of people in the industry have worked at clubs which might not have the best place of work, and it's all over the gap, and you're traveling off site to train, coming home, and then you have to put things together, but the people make it work and they just get through and they roll the sleeves up and they get stuck in and they still produce results for those players. So I think, yeah, like I said there, Ben, in terms of the Pompey episode really showed that as well. Small, good, close-knit team really, helps produce results. Obviously got them winning the league in League One and stuff and getting promoted and things. But Kev, how do you, in terms of you've hired a lot of people. You interviewed me way back when in the day. How do you? I didn't get the role, by the way. So clearly, I wasn't. But the people side of it, how do you spot that? Because that's hard, isn't it? That's the golden question. How do you spot that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. And to be fair, I did what I spotted in you was a desire and a value, a set of ethics to try to get better, a desire to want to get better. Obviously, but what everyone has to realize in our industry is there's a hell of a lot of people out there that are all graduating from university. Yeah. And I said this to the Notts County sort of research program that we got the students coming in. There's loads of you, 30, I don't know the number, 30, 40,000 people, shall we say, per year graduating. Some of those people won't want to do this. Some people want to go somewhere else. Some people will want to do it, can't do it. Some people will want to do it, will try really hard to do it, but won't get there. There's only a few people that will actually get through to where they want to get to, because there's a load of other staff already working in the industry. Now, ultimately, I think it's like the people have got to give themselves the best chance. Have I educated myself as well as possible? Have I learned all the training theories? Yeah. And can I evidence that? Have I increased my practical toolbox? So, for people that sort of like, oh, I don't want to do my bases, I don't need to do my UKCA. Why don't you? That's not a good enough answer for me. Why don't you want to do it? Oh, because it doesn't mean anything. It's blah, blah, blah. No, bang, they've gone straight away because they've got a closed mindset. And ultimately it's, you've got to give yourself the best chance. Can you get all your education? Can you get your toolbox? Can you improve your coaching skills? Have you shown a desire to go and work with multiple athlete groups? Or have you gone, I'm going to be the football S&C? Well, that's great. And having some football specific knowledge is fantastic. But you might need to do some cricket related knowledge, because it might benefit the goalkeepers in terms of shoulder stability, shoulder strength. You might need to do some athletics training, because it's going to help that winger who's not quite quick enough just feel that they're doing the right things to get better, to positively motivate them to try to get better, and give them some specific little individual drills in their ILP to improve their speed off the mark. It might be that you're doing some rugby training, just because you want to sort of get that centre back to be able to jump that a little bit higher, and you want to give them some real sort of rate of force development, explosive power work, and relate it to the second rows that have to jump for line outs and things like that. So in terms of the people, it's just all about just trying to give yourself the best chance. And at the end of the day, you might still not succeed. but we're in exactly the same boat as every single player in the country that's coming through the football pyramid. You know, you've got to get the shirt off someone else's back. They're not just going to give it to you. And I think, you know, ultimately people go, it's not for me. They find they're successful other areas. They go into education, they go into private facilities, they go into different sports. You know, they might even go randomly into sort of like business development work. Like, you know, I'm enjoying that at the moment. It's really, it's an exciting different opportunity. So it's helping me in terms of the way I can communicate with people, the way I take information from people. So yeah, it's just trying to give yourself the best possible chance to succeed by broadening your horizons, and not just this entitlement that, oh, if I do my internship, I'll get a job, and then if I get a job, I'll get another job. No, it don't work like that.
Mm.
So I might have not question there.
No, we've spoke about that entitlement piece a few times between Jordan and I, Kev, and like relating it slightly, not a similar sort of industry, I suppose, but into the gym world. Like you definitely see that more often now, where coaches and trainers are expecting to come in and they're demanding X, Y, and Z, but they've got no experience. They've not really built that toolbox. They've not even got the knowledge base. They've not got the experience, and they're expecting to be at a certain level. Do you feel like that's come into football as well, especially with like the early career coaches? Has that changed, or do you think that's been similar all along?
I think that's always been there, if I'm honest, but maybe more so now. You know, I don't know why, whether it's because university degrees costs have gone up, whether maybe the actual amount of the quality of the education you get at university has increased. Let's be fair, I think some of the degree programs are excellent now compared to what they were when I did it. There's a lot better standard of knowledge coming out of the university. And because of that, do they think, well, I deserve a job because I know everything? You know, I certainly think for one thing from you guys, I'll throw it back to you, is that, you know, working in the areas and the experiences that you guys have had, working with that broad population of athletes, how has that helped you? Because I know me personally working at David Lloyd Leisure 26 years ago, that I worked with a 60-year-old pensioner, you know, 50-year-old businessman, a 30-year-old triathlete, 14-year-old tennis player, 45-year-old like me, fat dad, just wanting to lose a bit of weight. You know, it's having that variety of sessions that you do as a personal trainer actually is really, really valuable for whenever it is that you enter the elite sport world, because it's just being able to engage with an athlete on a personal level and just, you know, laugh and joke and build a relationship is hugely important.
Go on, Jordan.
Go on, Ben.
I think we'll probably agree, to be fair.
Yeah, no, it's just the relationship side of it, isn't it? It is 100% the relationship side of it. And then once, like you say, you have such a variety of clients. I remember when I first left football and went into sort of the individual world, I was still working with athletes, like you said there, 14-year-old tennis athlete. I was working with 14-year-old footballers, but then I had, like you say, somebody who just wants to lose a bit of weight and get back in the shape that they used to be 10 years ago, sort of thing. And all of a sudden, coming out of the football world, I was like, how do you, right, okay, so I can't relate anything to sort of football performance based. It's just, right, how's life? What's going on? What did you do the weekend? How are the kids? You know, how are you feeling today? You saw, did you sleep well? Did the dog keep you up? Did the baby keep you, whatever it might be, you know, and it's just forming that relationship. And then if you can get that early on in your career, doing it with athletes becomes quite easy because there's a common like denominator across all of them that they just want to be better footballers or better cricketers or better rugby players. So it's, oh, did you watch the game last night? Did you do this? Did you watch the training back? All this sort of stuff. And then it's just that relationship becomes so much stronger. And it is just literally, like you say, the coaching toolbox is about relationship building. So yeah, I think that's a really key point there for students, for people who were coming out of unis and things, and like maybe that entitlement's creeping in a little bit. Have you gone out and built relationships with people, or have you just come straight out of uni and gone, yeah, I'm going to walk into a football job? What are you on about? So, but I'm guessing you agree with that, Ben. I'm pretty sure you do.
I think the big thing on that is the sheer amount of conversations you have and how, I suppose, diverse in a way that those conversations can be. So, like Kev said, all the different people that are coming in with different goals, you're running so many different types of sessions. You also get the accumulation of sessions throughout a week. So, in football, for example, we might do, I don't know, a few hours of sessions accumulatively across the week. Whereas working in a gym environment, you might be able to get 5, 6, 7, 8 plus hours in the day working with all these different people. Might be a small group, might be a large group, might be individual. I just think the sheer amount of conversations, like you said, relationships, but then the variety of sessions, building that toolbox that Kev's talked about, there can't be a negative side to it. Because then when you do get put in front of players, and we know that all players are different as well. He's referenced it a number of times that people react to different ways of working. Like some might be the kick up the arse, some might be, right, I'm going to do it with you. Some might be the arm round, big brother, dad figure. Like everyone's slightly different, aren't they? But you only pick up that experience from doing and actually having those scenarios and working with different ages. And yeah, I just think there's no, for me, there's no negative to it.
Yeah. A couple of things that stick in my mind from that is that I bet you guys now could walk into a room not even knowing the athlete in that room and design a session, deliver a session, build a rapport, and basically get them to do something.
Yeah.
Some practitioners will walk into that room and it's rabbit in the headlights. They freeze. And I personally, like John would testify that, I personally set up interview processes to put people on the spot. And it's not to test their technical knowledge, it's to test how they react to a situation. So I can't remember if I was mean to you or not, Jordan. I certainly have done a few guys in the time where I've just gone.
I hope so, yeah. I hope so.
I need to see.
You're all right, to be fair.
There's a few times where I've just gone, I've got an inkling, I need to see how this person will react if I keep pushing. And I just kept pushing and pushing with a question and pushing. And they're like, and it's just like, they gave me the answer 3 questions ago that I wanted to hear. But it's like, I want to see what you do when you when you're being pushed and being pushed and being pushed and being put under that spotlight. And then I have to apologise afterwards and say, look, yeah, it was great. You knew, yeah, you gave me the right answer. Don't worry, I just want to see how you reacted. But it's that experience, isn't it? So there's that time frame. And I think another thing that sits out with me here with this is like what you said, Ben, about like just having those conversations is the whole wellness question in football and fatigue monitoring, readiness to train. You know, we've got our force decks, we've got our force frames, we've got our output jump sensors, we've got whatever it is, we've got all our technologies that provide us some physiological profiling data. We've got our wellness questionnaires, we get the gradings, we've got the soreness questionnaires, we've got the sleep questionnaires, we've got the sleep monitors, all these data streams that are coming in. And then I'm going, right, it's great. Now the rigor of the actual data collection might be really, really good. It might be really, really reliable. It might be really, really valid. Might be question marks over some of them. But even say, for example, if it is really, really reliable and you've got good data in the system, how effective is your system at actually transferring that data into visualizations, into alerts, into availability alerts, into training modifications, into reports, into morning conversations around that player by the MDT? Because if it's just the wellness data that's sitting on a system but nobody actually sees it, or only one person looks at it, and then after the horse has bolted and they pulled the hamstring, oh yeah, it's a bit sore, and oh yeah, that's no good now, is it? We've got 12 weeks worth of rehab to do. So it's basically if you can, what I actually quite like having a wellness questionnaire, but I want a really simplistic one. And at the end of it, I want a box that they can click that says alert. I need a conversation. I need a one-to-one. Because then you know, and that flag comes through to your diary, comes through to your thing. I've got a one-to-one with Jordan Tyre in the morning. He's feeling sore in his calves. Right. It's done. It's done. And then I can go and have that conversation. And then we can go and create a system of, right, okay, well, let's get you need to report to the physios. You need to go do your MSK screen. We need to, let's quickly click on his individual longitudinal, like what's his reports, what's his loading done, right, before we go to the coaches meeting, it's getting flagged as an amber modification for volume of work, leave them up, and it's just all there in the system, on their laptops, on their iPads, however they want to look at it, just having those sort of alerts and those wireframes coming through from those, so that you can then actually talk about it.
Yeah.
And hurry around, scurry around trying to do all this stuff and not talk about it.
Yeah.
Which it's eliminating the fluff, isn't it? We say it all the time in terms of if everyone's got their own system, like you say, and then you spend 20, 30 minutes just running around trying to collect wellness scores or whatever. And before you know, training starts in 5 minutes, right, quick. And you've not actually looked at the spreadsheet you've just collected or whatever it is. So it's just eliminating fluff, isn't it? It's all about that in terms of our role.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about performances in terms of like, can we automate that? Can we have some iPads in the changing room with a kiosk mode, wellness questionnaire that they're just punching it in? Can we have it on their app, their player app that, they say the good thing about the AMS I'm working with is there's multiple data entry captures, all filters in, and you ain't got to do it. You haven't got to go around with your clipboard or your Excel template it's just done. And the information's there. So that you've got that information that you can then go and have a conversation with the coach. You can now have a conversation with the medic. You can have a conversation with the athlete. And your time, like you say, that time, I've got 30 minutes of protected time before I've got to take the guys in the gym. I've got to use that protected time as efficiently as possible to then make sure that when they do come in the gym, I can really impact on what they're doing. And the impact might be change of program. It might be buddy them up with someone else because they're doing something similar. It might be, like you say, putting their arm around them and just making them smile before they go start the program, because they know that you've actually looked at their data and actually looked at that questionnaire and actually doing something with it. That's massively powerful. It might be that you actually got to pull it up, right, come on, I need 5 minutes for you before we start, and you sit them down and go, your load's way too low yesterday. You need to do some top ups. I don't want to tell you out on the pitch. I want you to know before we go out, but we do need to do an individual top up after training. If you work hard in training and your scores on the live system are up there, I won't need to do the top up. But how many people can honestly say they've had that conversation in the morning? I don't reckon many.
I wouldn't say so. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's really important. I think you've raised some I think a lot of it, you said before, you might see it as sort of stating the obvious, and we'd like to think a lot of these processes are in place, but we know that they're not. So I think you've done a great job in terms of breaking down some points that coaches actually need to look at and go, we think we're doing that, but are we? And are some of these points things that we actually need to focus in on more? And it's one of my favorite topics, which is why we can speak about it for so long. We could probably do another few hours on it, because I think just that fact that it comes down to the nitty gritty parts of coaching, relationships, and all these things that we've talked about, that the phrases get thrown out there, but it's like, are you doing that on a daily basis? And just referring back to what you were talking about before, Kev, in terms of like the analysis side, the review side, and the amount spent there compared to the coaching and the planning, I think that does a great job just in terms of like people need to reflect on that and think about where your time is being spent And I think from there, you can maybe come up with your own plan of areas that you can then improve and work on. So I really appreciate you doing it, because I think it's a great topic and hopefully something that the listeners have taken a hell of a lot from. I know I have, and I'm sure Jordan has as well. Just wrap us up, Kev, just in terms of, I'm sure there might be some questions on a few of these topics, but just in terms of where people can connect with you, action apps, give us where you want them to go for that as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think I just say one final thing before. I'm not saying all this stuff to be controversial, to say, oh, I'm doing this amazing, some of you guys are not doing it. I'm not saying that. I'm really comfortable in being uncomfortable having these conversations, because I firmly believe my motives are honest, to do it to try and improve the profession. And I know for a fact certain things I don't do well, and I'm trying to get them better. So I'm not saying I do it all perfect, and some of these guys don't do it right, or this is wrong. I'm just saying, be comfortable in the uncomfortable of asking yourself the question, like you say, could I do this better? And then ask yourself, how can I do this better? And for that, I mean, again, if people want to reach out to us on either LinkedIn or I'm quite happy to sort of pass on my emails for you. But yeah, in terms of action apps, I'd definitely love to direct them to the website there. Like personally, because I just think it's a really important system that automates and takes out all that stress and all that sort of time invasive manpower to allow you to impact on the athlete with good coaching. In terms of actual good coaching, obviously I've been with the UKCA on the board for over 7 years. I'm very proud of that fact. I'm very proud of what the UKCA does try to achieve, and it gets a lot of flack. I know it gets a lot of flack, but it's doing it for the right reasons. It's trying to raise the standards of coaching to be safe and effective for the athlete. After you've passed your driving test and you've proven you're safe and effective, yes, we're all going to coach slightly differently. Layman's terms, a lot of my technical model coaching. But I know what the technical model is. I don't ask someone to go against that technical model, because I know that's what's safe and effective to practice. BASES, obviously, for the sports science, we're working with BASES as a supervisor reviewer. It's a very much a theory and a competency-based profile, but it's a worthwhile process to go through and reflect upon yourself as a practitioner in terms of how all your systems and processes as a sports scientist. It is a worthwhile process to go through and do that. It's not just about collecting the badge. It's a very much reflective practice. And then for the UKCA, it's obviously a very practical coaching toolbox. And then obviously seek out an appropriate AMS to help you with all your sort of data analysis and review. That'd be my guidance.
Class. Well, lads, thank you very, very much for your time. I think that was a top episode, to be fair. I've taken a hell of a lot from that. So, Kev, I appreciate it. Jordan, thanks for coming back on.
Cheers, guys.
Jordan, that was a really interesting one. Obviously, Kev's someone that we've both previously had contact with. Kev gave me one of my first opportunities in S&C, so I'll always be grateful for that. And I know you mentioned about the interview that you had with him, and it's pulling from his experiences. It was really interesting to hear some of the common things that have been spoken about in recent episodes and we've spoken about, but just some of the, like, getting into the details of coaching as well, and where to focus our time, really thinking about how to improve as a coach, I thought was absolutely fascinating. And hopefully people have listened to that and gone, I've listened to what Kev said, I need to improve on, or I need to maybe look at X, Y, and Z. And maybe a few things have really stuck out. What did you take?
I think the key things that I took away from all of that is that obviously processes are really, really important. Like you said about the 4 Ps in terms of your place of work, your review practice is important. Don't spend too much time on it, but the planning that goes into everything. But again, fundamentally, it comes down to your coaching toolbox, your coaching ability, your experience of coaching, I think the point he said at the end was really good when he asked the question on, I bet you two could now get dropped into a room of athletes and just it's a single swim situation and swim, and then really thrive in that situation. Just go, right, how are we all? Let's crack on. Let's put a session together. And that only comes through experience of coaching and relationship building and conversations in all walks of life and stuff like that. And I think everything you said there around having a platform to streamline stuff, all it's doing is allowing the coaching to be better. And I think that's really important to take that message away, because we've had it on multiple podcasts now, Martin Bushite's one, Sports Science 3.0, all the ones that we always do around data. You know, we love the glitz and glam stuff in this industry. Let's not beat around the bush. We go, oh, that's a cool piece of software. That's a cool, piece of equipment, whatever it might be. But they're only designed and they're only really there to make the coaching process better and to make the athletes better at the end of the day. So that was a fundamental underlying message, which kept coming back to the surface, which I thought was really good.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things I wrote down was what he said about showing them what you know that can actually make a difference. So not just showing them what you know, like I'm a walking, talking textbook and I know all these phrases and systems and all the rest of it. But the second part of that is how it can make a difference. And loads of episodes, when we do these, loads of different episodes pop up into my head that the conversations we've had. I'm sure it's the same with you. And the few of the ones that sprung out was the one with Ben Rosen, where he's at Blackburn. He was speaking about how they remove any testing data that they essentially don't use. But the other side of it, which ties really nicely into this phrase or takeaway, is, and I can't remember whether it was Matt Allen or Josh Rice when the lads are at Spurs in the academy, and they were talking about in the gym having a TV up of like clips of the games. And so if they're doing something, like Kev mentioned, the bowling, if it was, say, I don't know, like a sprint, for example, and you're doing an exercise that's maybe working on that, you can go, right, player A, see that position in the game there. This is one of the reasons that we are doing it to improve that. And it just gave that real nice link between, oh, okay, I'm not just in the gym training for the sake of training. I'm training to improve a match day. And I think that was one of the key things for me, was taking that away. And the other one that it ties into is Barry Druss. Is, are we harming or helping? That's a presentation on our online community. And that's along the same lines as, okay, we've got all these things in our toolbox now. We've got testing, all this, like all the data that we gather. But how much of it is actually making a difference from 10, 15 years ago when we didn't have any of it? And I think it's just, that's the question, isn't it? It's not to say take it all away. And that's not what Kev's saying either. He's saying use it at the right times and essentially use things that are going to save you time, like he's talked about, because we're all chasing time. We would all love extra time in the day. And this is one way of freeing some up, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And the point, again, probably the last thing for me will be where he's saying you can spend 4 hours in your office making your reports look lovely, either Excel, Power BI, whatever system you use nowadays, and you could sit there patting yourself on the back in your safe space, going, "Oh, that's a sexy spreadsheet sort of thing." We've all done it. We're all guilty of it. But down the corridor might be the players, if they're lucky enough to have sort of like a little players like lounge or whatever, where they can chill out or whatever at the end of training, or if it's the time where they're clearing out or they're finishing up the jobs and they're going up home. Like, you popping your head out and saying, "See you later, lads. Well done today." Like I said in the episode, like a little fist bump, and just that touch point that we always come back to, and how many touch points you can get with your athletes. That is so much more powerful than having your sexy spreadsheet that only realistically maybe the coaches and the physio are going to see, and they'll go, "Yeah, cool," and then they'll be on to the next thing. So it's like which one's more important at that point. So yeah, I think that was a really nice point. Just remember, we're here for the athletes. It's really important.
100%, mate. Really enjoyed it. Thanks again for coming on. It was great to have him. It's been quite a while since he was on. So if you want to check out the first podcast he did, that was episode 92. So that's a little while ago now. So you can go and check that one out as well. But again, thank you for listening. Check out the sponsors. So that's Good Prep, Rezzil, and Hydro, and also Hawking Dynamics now as well. So go and check out those guys out too. And a big thank you to them for sponsoring the podcast. Jordan, I'll speak to you next week.
Pleasure as always.